Hello again. Today we're going to run through a pretty typical sunset session. Okay, so let's start with the basics, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run through the absolute basics. No focus stacking, no exposure blending, just a straight out, hopefully, a nice sunset image. Okay, so I'll quickly show you around at where we are. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll go for a bit of a walk around this tree, and I'm just going to show you how I read a composition. Okay, so we know the sun's setting over that way. Now, if we shoot from here, we get some nice side light, and it's all going to depend on where the color is. Okay, I don't want to start to get some of this in my shot. I want to keep the lone tree as a lone tree. So I'm sort of thinking over here looks good. I don't like the way this tree is cutting through the horizon. So a nice little trick here, what we want to do is create some separation between that tree, and look at that. Look at the difference once we get down nice and low and create that separation between the tree and the horizon. Okay, so because we're doing a sunset, first thing we're going to do is set up our camera. And I'm going to keep this very basic and show you how we can work with manual mode without worrying too much about what our actual settings are doing. So this is a very basic setup that will work for almost any type of sunset. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set our ISO to 100. Whatever your base ISO is, we don't want to go too low. We just want to go to our base ISO. So on this camera, it's 100. So next thing I'm going to do is set my aperture. Now I want an aperture of around about f9. So f9 is usually nice and sharp and a good starting spot. Now, all I'm going to do, now that I've got those two set, I'm just going to change my shutter speed until my histogram here isn't touching the right. So if I have my shutter speed too slow, everything's going to overexpose. And what I want to do is slightly underexpose. So with a sunset, the sun is going to be very bright. Okay, so we're going to use our histogram to expose. And that's the easiest way to shoot in manual. Set your ISO, set your aperture, and then all you're doing is changing your shutter speed to get your histogram in the middle as best as you can. Okay, with those three set, aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, and our histogram's all in the middle, what I'm going to do is flick over into autofocus. So again, this is for beginners. Click on autofocus, and I'm just going to focus on the horizon. Okay, so just get out onto the horizon. As soon as I hear that beep, I know it's focused on the horizon. And then I'm going to flick it into manual mode. So mirrorless cameras will be different. So similar thing, just autofocus on your horizon and then flick into manual focus. So I am going to just try and find what I like the most. Okay, and that's what photography is all about. Find out what works for you and don't be afraid to keep moving around. Okay, so I'm just using every little puddle and reflection that I can. Occasionally I'm using just the sand. Okay, yeah, now we're sort of starting to cut into our background. So I want to stay around here. So this time I'm just going to use just the sand. Okay, and now we're starting to get close to sunset. So now that it's getting close to sunset, this is where we review our photos and just find out what we like. So have a look at the photos that we've taken, find out which composition you like the most, okay? And you know, the great thing about photography, it's different for everyone. There's no golden rule as to what works and what doesn't. It's all about you. You find what you like and stick with it and work with it. Okay, so I know kind of roughly what works for me. So I'm just waiting for that sun to go down, wait till we get some more color, and then I'll get into position. Okay, I've reviewed my images, okay, I've taken a few images from different angles. I know what works now, so now it's just a matter of waiting for that color, and hopefully we get some color. And then I've got my foreground interest sorted, and sunsets, it's all about the sun, okay, we just want the sun to do something now. Okay, so now we're starting to get some nice color. Okay, so again, I'm going to recompose. Going to get up nice and close because I know from before up close worked well with this tree. And as long as we're not too close to the tree, we don't need to focus stack. So this is where the editing will depend on what we capture. Okay, so one thing that I'm always very wary of is take note of what's happening. Okay, so You know, a lot of people like to just shoot in camera, but I can guarantee you that you will not see that green in the tree and the color in the sky from a raw file. It just doesn't happen. Okay, we're directly into the sun, we're shooting into the sun. That tree is going to be a silhouette, just simply because a camera cannot capture that sort of a dynamic range. Okay, so that's why we need to process or develop our photos. Okay, so I'm just taking note of what I'm seeing. I'm seeing green in the tree. I'm seeing lots of color in the sky. I can see everything, okay? You watch the raw files, they'll be flat, they'll be black, white, very lifeless, okay? What you see on the video is probably a bit closer to what I'm seeing with my eyes. And that's what I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling. So when it comes time to edit, that's how we're going to edit our photos. Nice big rain cloud out on the horizon. A little bit of color up this way. Okay, so when it starts doing this, just fire away, take photos. Okay, fire away, take photos. Look at where the cloud is, look at where the rain is. Okay, so I want that rain in my shot, so I'm just going to move this way a little bit. Frame up the tree, so I've got a bit of color that side, the rain on that side. Okay, so now we're getting to that time of night. It's getting dark. Okay, so as you can see, I really need to slow down that shutter speed. And now I'm going to go to the tripod. Okay, so now our shutter speed is very slow. Okay, so now I'm on my tripod. I've got my tripod as low as this one will go. But more importantly, what I need to do now is put a 2-second timer on. A 2-second timer will eliminate any camera shake. So that way I can press my shutter, take my hand off, gives the camera time to settle. Because now we're dealing with slower exposures and we want to eliminate as much camera movement as possible. Okay, so now we're getting to that time of night where we lose our color. And this is when a lot of people leave. A lot of people will leave now because the sun's set, we've got grey clouds, everything goes a bit dull. Fast forward 20 minutes and you watch what happens. Okay, now we're starting to enter blue hour. So blue hour is where you get that second wave of colour. Okay, so everything will go from grey, and as long as you've got a little bit of clear sky, okay, if it's completely grey you won't get any colour, but as long as you've got a little bit of clear sky, you will start to get oranges, purples, blues, you'll start to get some really nice colour. Okay, so let's have a look at exactly what's going on here. Now, as you can see, we're very dark, okay, so we need to get our shutter speed way down to almost 1 second. Okay, so down at 1 second, again, all I'm really watching is my highlights. Okay, I don't want to have them too bright, because what I'll do, let me take that shot, and I'll show you what happens when we blow our highlights. Okay, so that's my overexposed image. Now what I'm going to do is keep my eye on that histogram, get it so it's not touching the right-hand side, but still getting it as close to the right as possible. So somewhere around about there, I'm going to slightly underexpose. And we'll get that shot. Okay, and I'll show you the difference between an overexposed and a slightly underexposed. You get so much more colour by underexposing, put it that way.